JB, we are blessed this Thanksgiving time for a number of reasons. I'm in upstate New York right now, ready to celebrate with my family. You're with your family down in Florida, ready to celebrate. But we wanted to kind of do a Thanksgiving special set of interviews with guys that we have, had the fortune of being friends with along the way, especially during our Liberty League days. There's one coach who we're going to talk to right now that left a couple of years ago for another team, another league, and then there's a coach that got basically taken away from us by the new MAC, who won't go there too deeply, but we've talked about a couple of those situations throughout the year, but we haven't got a chance to talk to him as well. But first things first, let's talk about the guy that left a couple of seasons ago to what I would call a very good job opportunity indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and congratulations to him, because he was officially announced today as the 2017 Coach of the Year for the New England Small College Athletic Conference, usually referred to as the NESCAC. Our friend from St. Lawrence University, back from our Liberty League days, head coach Mark Raymond, but we like to call him Coach Ray.
Coach, welcome and thanks for joining us today, and congratulations on success in 2017 over at Williams.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you asking me to come back on. You guys do a heck of a job. I'm glad to be here.
So, Coach, we gave you the shout out to open the show. Obviously, the Coach of the Year award, well deserved after taking an 0-8 team to 6-3 this season. You had a couple of your players earn first team All NESCAC. You even have the Rookie of the Year, your quarterback, who helped you in that turnaround. We saw you do it at St. Lawrence, taking them from an 0-10 season to some league titles and some playoff runs. Was it sort of the same process there at Williams, or, different school, different players, different system, sort of different process? Can you kind of compare and contrast, how you got things turned around at both institutions?
Yeah, very similar is the fact that we, didn't have a ton of success early, and then with the help of a great staff and some really good players, we're able to put a really good year together. But certainly, I tell the guys, every team is different year to year, no matter where you are, and it was just finding the right mix and some great additions to our team. And we had some fantastic senior leadership, and like I said, I have a great staff, and everybody just kept positive, kept driving, and believed in our mission, and being tough and hardworking and sticking together. And we kind of put those things to work, and had an outstanding year.
Coach, what does it take to get folks to buy in when you get to a new school, to a new system, to a new coaching staff, et cetera? Obviously 2016 didn't go the way that you wanted it to necessarily, but did the buy-in process begin during 2016 despite the offer, or did it happen during the off season? At what point did you see this team really buying into what you brought from St. Lawrence over to Williams?
Yeah, 2016 was a tough year for us, and it's hard to tangibly see with the progress that we made, because obviously the scoreboard didn't show it. But I was very proud of the group I coached. They worked tremendously hard. They never gave in, and you could see them starting to believe and doing the little things and preparing to be winners, and that carried over into this year. So both groups worked tremendously hard. Fortunately, we were able to have some great results this year.
Well, some of those results we know in the past, you've got a strong reputation as a great recruiter of student athletes, and the fact that you have a quarterback who's Rookie of the Year, you have a couple of freshmen that made the all-conference team. Tell us a little bit about the process of going out and finding these guys and getting them on board when the 2016 season didn't go your way. And clearly it seems like you got some great athletes coming in with this freshman class. There's probably more to come. I'm sure you're on the phone and still recruiting, even though you've got Thanksgiving in a couple of days. But tell us about this incoming class and the impact it's had on the program.
Yeah, they had a huge impact. As you said, Bobby Mamron was the Rookie of the Year in the league. He's a special young man, tremendous leader, phenomenal under pressure, and some some special athletic ability that he has. And we were able to kind of identify him real quickly in the fact that he's the has a skill set we want in our quarterbacks. An athletic guy who can lead. Academically, he was very strong, and he was a winner. He won state championships and broke all Doug Flutie's records for Massachusetts. So we knew he had the skill set we wanted, and certainly had the academic resume. And my coaches went after him real hard and worked on getting him to campus. And he believed in the direction we were taking it, and with the help of some great teammates and great leadership, he was able to put together a great year.
Yeah, I remember our friend Matt Noonan, who had you on his podcast a few weeks ago, mentioning the whole Doug Flutie reference. I had forgotten about that. That's pretty neat. One of the things that I thought that was interesting about this season, and obviously it probably wasn't a big change for you because you were used to playing 9-10 game seasons at St. Lawrence over the years, and this year the NESCAC moved to a 9-game schedule. And I imagine your first year as sort of the rookie coach, it was kind of like, when do we play a game? It's late September. Was having that extra, that earlier week start, kind of a blessing for you guys, and so you didn't have to wait as long. I mean, it's great to prepare and everything, but you want to play some football games. What were your thoughts on the 9-game season this year at the NESCAC?
Yeah, I mean, we were excited about it on the surface, no question. And for us, it was like we weren't sure. We knew we were going to be a young team, and so losing a week of preparation, we weren't sure how that was going to be advantageous for us. But our guys came in great shape. They prepared well over the summer, and we were able to hit the ground running. And I think at the end of the day, as you mentioned, playing a week earlier and getting out there and putting things to work was at the end of the day was advantageous for us because as it's a long time to get in the training camp with no doubles and things like that, but it was certainly to our advantage.
So, Coach, we periodically check in with you behind the scenes, and you always bring up Liberty League football, which was our bread and butter for 9 seasons before we expanded this year. How much do you talk to Coach Pacaber and the crew back at St. Lawrence, and what are your thoughts about, obviously it wasn't the season they wanted this year, but last year while you were at Williams, things were pretty good for them, obviously. What's your thought, what's your connection still to St. Lawrence football?
Yeah, I talk to those guys quite often. During the year, it's hard because everybody's busy trying to prepare their team, but I certainly probably once a week talk to some of those guys up there. I have a few guys on my staff who are St. Lawrence guys, so we watch intently and try to get a feel for what they have going as well. So certainly we have an interest in what's going on, and hopefully they continue to grow there.
Yeah, and for the last basically 6 or so seasons, we kind of had a 2-team race between Hobart and St. Lawrence there for a while. RPI did share the title with you guys in your last year, but you guys won the automatic bid due to the head-to-head tiebreaker. Now all of a sudden we have Ithaca in the mix, and this season, Hobart and St. Lawrence are looking up in the standings at a couple of teams that they had typically had some success. What were your thoughts? Now a couple of weeks removed from the 2017 season on kind of how things shook out in the Liberty League.
Yeah, it's an interesting league. It's funny because, St. Lawrence, was right down to the wire. They could have had 3 victories in the last minute where they had games come down to the very end. So that would have changed their season dramatically. So there's going to be a lot of close games played. There's some outstanding coaches in the league. And obviously with Ithaca, Union being strong, and now I believe Buff State's coming into the league. I think it's going to be any man's race here these next couple of years. All those schools are committed to being good at football, and like I said, there's some really good coaches who are going to work hard in recruiting and prepare their team. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Okay, Coach, this is the ultimate NESCAC question. We try to ask it to athletic directors and coaches all around, through the years. They've never answered our question. You can take the 5th on this one if you want. Go ahead, but wouldn't you love the chance to at least play one game outside the NESCAC, be it a playoff game or a regular season game ultimately? Is there any desire inside the NESCAC, from what you can tell, to possibly go interconference for at least one game somehow, some way?
Well, I know it comes up, in conversations, and I'm probably on a yearly basis. I've been here 2 years. We've talked about it twice. But I tell you, I enjoy it because there is every game is for keeps here. There's no warm ups. There's no games at the beginning of your schedule that you're getting tuned up for. Everything matters, and it is a playoff. It's a 9-week playoff, and it's a really tough format. It's, even though it's 9 weeks, it's 9 straight weeks with no bye, and every game is a conference game. So it'd be great to get outside the league, possibly to test your mettle, maybe at a region or something like that. But I think the fact that every game is a conference game and every game is against someone that you recruit against and know very well, it really intensifies your schedule, and knowing you can't look past somebody because it's going to count in your conference ranking. So I think it's a really great format, but I know those conversations have gone on and probably will until it does change.
Yeah. So, Coach, what happens now that you guys knocked off your rivals, Amherst, in the biggest little game in the country in the final week there? Does Coach Devaney send you like a care package of your favorite, Canadian beer, since you used to live right, across the border? I mean, you kind of helped them out there. Trinity finishes 8-1, so is there kind of a quid pro quo type of thing that goes on with the NESCAC? Is it bourbon, Scotch kind of thing? What's the deal?
Well, I think he was appreciative that we helped him out indirectly, but I don't see any. I don't think there'll be any Christmas gifts under the tree for us from Trinity. But they have a great program, well coached team, and they certainly deserve the championship.
Coach, the obligatory question number 2 I have to ask you here: how's the bench press? What's it up to?
Tell you what, guys, it's not good. We're just we're all. My staff just got back from playing basketball, and I've been sitting here, so I need to do something to get in shape. So I'm afraid I may have to go on the machines because I don't want to put any plates on the bar. I got to work on getting back in shape.
You look fine to us, though. I will tell you that. We can see a little bit, enough to see it.
It's from the chest up. I don't keep a good angle here.
Coach, we don't want to keep you too long. We know Thanksgiving's coming up. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? And we also want to give you a chance to give some shout-outs to folks that maybe you haven't talked to in a while, or other things along the way here.
Yeah, myself, my wife, and I got 2 young daughters, 8 and 6. We're going to head up to Tupper Lake, New York, to visit some family for Thanksgiving, spend a few days up there in the mountains, and just relax. My wife is an assistant coach on the Williams soccer team, and they're in the Final Four, so they'll get back to practicing over the weekend. So we're not too much time away, but enough to spend some time watching football and follow these Division III playoffs. Well, thanks again, Coach. It was a pleasure to have you on. We'll wish you a very happy Thanksgiving with your family up there in the mountains of Tupper Lake, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again in the off season. Hey, let me know if you're ever down here through Florida, and congratulations on the Coach of the Year award and all your success at Williams this season. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
JB, that was a great interview with Coach Raymond, and great to have him back on the show after a little bit of an absence while he was at Williams the last couple of years. Now, part 2 of our Thanksgiving, why we're thankful special here. The coaches that have really helped us along the way. We've got Coach Chris Robertson, and this is one of those seasons. A friend of mine, Preston Roberts, who was a former running back over at WPI. I saw him Saturday night. We were talking about the New England Bowl win that WPI had, and their record escaped me. And I said, "Oh, they're 8-3," and Preston's like, "No, they're 9-2." And I had to look, and I'm like, something, Preston, you're right. They have been so quiet to get to 9-2 this season. It was really shocking that we didn't pay as much attention to them as we did some other teams out there.
But we did discuss that with Coach. First, why don't you give a little bit of a synopsis of Coach and the team, and then we'll talk about the question we asked, and we'll lead into this.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Coach Robertson's been at the helm at WPI for a few seasons now. Had some mixed success in the Liberty League. He took his team to an ECAC bowl game 2 years ago, and this season, they started off a little rough. They were 2-2 after week 4. Kind of won the games that you'd kind of expect them to win, and they came up short against what ultimately ended up being a couple of playoff teams, and then they rattled off 6 in a row. And as you said, they were kind of under the radar. We knew that they wouldn't probably qualify for a Pool C type of situation, and the NUMAC, without having an automatic qualifier, there's no guarantee that the winner of that conference would get in unless they went undefeated, and that ended up being Springfield, and we obviously covered off on that. But Coach Rob, 9-2, the best, ties the record for the best season that WPI's had since 1992. And they even won a postseason game, which we're going to ask Coach Rob about in a little bit. But we ultimately wanted to frame it from the perspective of, hey, you guys had sort of a 500 start. What was it that helped you kind of start to turn the corner and start off on that 6-game win streak?
In the first 4 games of the season, as we look at it, we played against teams, Maria and Becker, who have struggled traditionally as football programs, and 2 teams that we beat, and I think we did the things that we were supposed to do against both of those teams and shutting them out. The other 2 games in the first month of the year was a home game against soon to be an NCAA playoff bound RPI team, and an undefeated regular season 10-0 Springfield Pride. So as we kind of finished off that first month, we sat there at 2-2, and losing to 2 very good teams and beating 2 teams that we should beat, and kind of wondering where we were as a football program. And then at that point, really taking a look at the rest of the schedule, really saying to ourselves and really challenging the team to say, we can be a good football team. We can be a great football team. And this is our opportunity to do something great. And whereas I don't ever talk about wins and losses with guys, we challenged our team to win out throughout the last 6 weeks of the year, and it was against some pretty good football teams. We had some pretty good tests along the way, and we're fortunate enough to get a bowl game out of it this year too, and to win that as well. So, to finish the season with a postseason win and winning 7 in a row, that's something that very few teams have the opportunity to do. And I think it all kind of formed ahead after the Springfield loss, where we really determined that we wanted this season to be something good, and that it was extremely not only salvageable for us, but that we could find great success this year.
Coach, the season, the way it's developed, you talk about certain teams in your schedule, but you got to look at, I guess, other teams as well in the NUMAC. That Merchant Marine team, for instance, they had a great win in the ECAC Bowl, the Chapman Bowl on Friday against Buffalo State team. You guys, with this win against SUNY Maritime, ultimately, that's like your first postseason win in how long? I can't remember. And it's been kind of a special season for you in so many different ways. Kind of take us through what you think the NUMAC looks like and what your role in the NUMAC looks like, especially after this big bowl win.
Well, I think when you look at the NUMAC, it's a very interesting group of really some of the best universities out there. You take a look, you have 2 of the premier engineering universities in the entire country in WPI and MIT. You have 2 of the absolute premier federal military universities in Merchant Marine and the Coast Guard Academy in the entire country. You have really one of the elite Catholic institutions in Catholic University. You've got a couple of the oldest and most prestigious private military schools in the entire country, in Maine Maritime and in Norwich. And you have the premier, if you want to go somewhere to be a strength and conditioning coach or, a phys ed teacher, physical therapist, all those, those things that there's a lot of kids out there that want to do those things. There's no better place to go than Springfield College. So you have a very interesting dynamic of a lot of different types of universities, but it's a pretty cool thing when you put it all together. The one thing that I would say as a defensive coach, we spend about 1/3 of our year defending triple option, which, I'd love to tell you that I enjoy doing it. I can tell you that I have gotten used to doing it. That's a personality matchup thing. You've got, Coach Kroll down at Kings Point. You have his personality. You got Coach Sarasulo at Springfield with his personality, and then you've got Coach McKinney at Maine Maritime, his personality. And I guess the good thing is that you don't just only plan for it 1 week out of the year. You actually legitimately plan, 1/3 of your season to defend, cut blocks and forcing people to make decisions and that type of thing. So that's my own personal defensive feelings. But yeah, I did watch some of the Kings Point game the other night against Buff State, and a lot of that becomes matchups, and it becomes some level of have you prepared to defend against those types of teams. Kane played Springfield early in the season, and we had played Kane a couple of years ago in the ECAC, and Kane's an extremely talented team. But Springfield, they took it to them, and I think part of it was because Salisbury's triple option is different than Springfield's triple option, and what Kane was preparing for was different than what they got up in Springfield at the beginning of the year. So, and with our conference, there is matchups too. There is talent matchups and there's schematic matchups and things like that. And, and it's but overall, it's a very cool conference, and we're really excited to be in it.
Yeah, and Coach, I'm sure Frank will be shocked, but this is sort of a long question that I have. I'll try to get it out in the next 5 minutes. But you mentioned you played, some of your, former Liberty League rivals in RPI. You obviously went up against Springfield for several years. But one of the things that's interesting about the new MAC is that you're going up against, as you mentioned, some of these old Freedom Conference teams like Maine Maritime and Catholic. You guys probably hadn't been to DC in several years, and you did that in the middle of your season. You went down, you won those games, and then you had a bye week, and right before you played the Merchant Marine and MIT. How critical was it for you guys to kind of experience some of these newer programs that you hadn't faced before, get those wins, and then go into that bye week leading into those two critical matchups against Merchant Marine and MIT?
Yeah, I think one thing that the Liberty League did for us was it kind of teaches you how to travel, because when we're traveling from Worcester out to Geneva or up to Canton or out to Rochester and things like that, you really need to know how to travel. And Catholic was a good example of that. We actually left on Thursday. We got down to Princeton. We practiced at Princeton. We took the kids to the mall area with some of the memorials and really tried to make it into something special, and at the same time stay prepared and focused for a football game. And sure enough, Catholic puts the first touchdown on the board. I'm saying to myself, geez, am I regretting, doing some of these things or whatever? And we wound up kind of getting back on track and winning the football game. And it'll be the next, next year when we go up to Castine, Maine, it'll be the same thing for us. It'll be my first time up there, our team's first time. And I think the Liberty League did teach us how to travel, which is a good thing. And we talk about the bye week. We've had bye weeks where we come out and we play RPI and we've beaten RPI. We've had bye weeks where we came out and we played, Merchant Marine, and we've beaten Merchant Marine. And, for us, it's 3 to 4 extra practices. Our kids are going through finals, which isn't easy. But anytime you can, rep things, let's say, 30 to 40% greater over the course of a week and a half, you're going to put yourself in better position to win than if it's just a normal game week for you, as long as you have a good game plan and as long as the kids believe in the things that you're doing. So without a doubt, the bye week is huge for us in a lot of ways. Finals week, especially the freshmen, their heads are spinning. Physically, you're banged up. It gives you an opportunity to rest, and it does give you a couple extra practices to get ready for that next opponent too.
And Coach, you mentioned going to the ECACs when you played Kane a couple seasons ago. I don't believe you guys filed for the ECACs this year. Was it because you had a good sense that the New England Bowl was going to work out? I mean, obviously near the end of the season, you guys were had a leg up on MIT from a head-to-head standpoint. And then just kind of, talk us through, when did you find out about the New England Bowl and how did you guys start to prepare for that game?
Yeah, so, I know that we had previously been associated with the ECAC, and I think what you'll find is most of the New England conferences, from what I believe, are no longer associated with the ECAC, and that's above my pay grade decision from an administrative perspective. With that said, for us, and I'm also on the NCAA Regional Advisory Committee too, who was pushing hard for Springfield to get in, even though we weren't an AQ conference. But, it was obvious that, the NCAA was not something that we were going to make this year. So, we were really banking on that opportunity. And, usually I don't spend a lot of time kind of plugging around and seeing how everybody's doing and what matchups and that type of thing. But, we knew that the Curry-Salve game would be a determining factor. And we knew that, if Framingham, beat Worcester State, that they would probably be a team. And I think, Husson clear and away was the top team in the ECFC. And then you had, SUNY Maritime as a number 2. So kind of determined that it would probably be around those 4 teams. And my man Rusty, he texted me or called me Sunday night, said, "Hey, listen, the official announcement's going to be Monday. Don't say anything to the players. We're going to make sure they do this the right way." And, we texted the team around, I think, 9:59 a.m. and right around 10 o'clock. That's when you started to see things on social media. And, I remember 2 years ago getting the ECAC, bowl information and things like that. And it was my first postseason game as a coach. It was the coolest thing ever. And, and I think that it wasn't just that we were happy to be a part of it. You're going in there with the intention of winning too. And I think this year was kind of the culmination of that, where it wasn't just enough just to be a part of it and just to show up. We wanted to put ourselves on a little bit of a bigger map, from the football perspective.
Speaking of not showing enough, and I'll let Frank take the next question, but can you kind of move over a little bit? There's something behind you that I think we should see. What do you got? What do you got behind you there, Coach? Yeah, there it is. There's a New England Bowl trophy right there. That's nice.
Let's talk about the game, Coach. As much as we talk about your offense in many games throughout the times we've talked to you, your defense has been an extremely strong aspect of the WPI football game. This weekend was no different. You played a game against a SUNY Maritime team who, honestly, were fun and gunning it a lot of times throughout the season, it seemed like, putting up a lot of points, and yet you held them to 3 points, I believe it was, in the final score. How did you do it, and how proud of your defense are you, perhaps Frank should say, and that's what I will ask you. How proud are you of that defense?
Yeah, so, I'll go back to my first time coaching against SUNY Maritime. Was my first game ever as a head football coach at Salve Regina back in 2006, and that's back when SUNY Maritime was a triple option team. And we wound up winning that game in the last second, and I probably should have retired then because I lost every single other game that season in 2006, and there went my winning percentage all time. But I will say this, Clayton Kendrick Holmes is a phenomenal person. I'm sure you guys remember when he was called back up to active duty a couple of years ago. And in this business, he's one of the guys that I have just the utmost amount of respect for. And, being on the sideline opposing him is a privilege for me to be able to do that. And his offensive coordinator, Saj Takar, is a young man who had played at Fitchburg State, a young man that we had interviewed. And obviously Clayton entrusted him with a lot to be able to move from a complete different direction of going triple option to going to, what I would consider to be a shotgun RPO team. MIT prepared us for this game. MIT's quarterback is brilliant. He's probably one of the smartest college football players in America, and he makes tremendous decisions. And, similar types of, I guess, decision-making that go into it. Obviously, SUNY Maritime, it's a different personality with the coordinator and with the people. But as we kind of looked at that game from our defense to their offense, with the RPO, it's important to be able to take things away so that you don't have to put your individuals on defense in a position where they have to make a decision between defending the run and defending the pass. And, so that's the basis for defending any type of RPO team, is that, you have to be able to take a look at the formation that they're in and, take a look at the back set and see what they can do. And then, allow your linebackers to defend the run and rotate safeties down to defend the pass. And, in that, you're going to take away pieces of the things that they want to do. And what's left is, for them, it was a screen game, it was a run game, and it was a 4 vertical game. And they couldn't run the football on us all night, which was a testament to our front 7. Screen game, they hit us a couple of times for a couple of 10, 15-yarders, and our guys got the handle on what they were trying to do. And then really, we always love the opportunity for our front 4 late in the game to be able to just not worry about defending the run, so they can pin their ears back a little bit more and get after a quarterback. And Luca Cerasani and Derek Pacheco are 2 bookends there, who are 2 of the top guys in the conference in sacks and 2 of the top guys in the country and tackles for loss. Luca had a field day that day. And, when you can put pressure on the quarterback and only rush 4, that's a pretty big deal, because you're not forced to be in man coverage. You're not forced to be in a light zone coverage. So there's been plenty of times where our offense has stepped up and done some great things and scored when we needed them to score. And this was one of those games where the defense had to hold our own and provide the offense with some good opportunities and some good field position. And, take a look at the last 7 games of the year, while the average score for us was something like 34-10 in our favor. So we've been putting points on the board. Our defense has been doing a great job of keeping teams out of the end zone, and not to mention our special teams have been fantastic this year too. So, but it was an overall team effort. It was a culmination of a lot of things, and I just couldn't be more proud of this group of guys, and it represents a lot of great things here. And I can't tell you how many alumni I've heard from already, hundreds of emails over the past 2 or 3 days congratulating us and on the success that we had.
Now, when was the last time WPI won a postseason game, out of curiosity?
That's a never in 120 years. So this is the first time ever. We're 1-4 all time. We went to the NCAAs in '92 and lost to a great Rowan team. Lost an ECAC game in '93, both with the great Coach Sidlecki, who went on later to coach at Amherst and Yale. And then I was fortunate enough to get us back to the ECACs 2 years ago in our loss to Kane. And so this was our first victory ever in the postseason.
128. Wow, that's awesome. Those are great moments. Coach, you mentioned your team, has been pretty explosive offensively. SUNY Maritime, put up a lot of points this season too. When I turned the game on, there was like a sideways rain downpour. I may be down here in sunny Florida, but I'm from New England. I know that middle of November, the weather can get pretty cold. With offenses like you guys have, how do you coach, through a situation when I think there was 18 punts in the game? How do you keep these kids from getting either impatient or frustrated, when they're used to, scoring a lot, but it's one of those things, the weather's bad, it's cold, can't really run the ball, passing game is a little wobbly. How do you keep these 18 to 22-year-old guys focused on the task at hand when there's really just a lot of short gains and a lot of punts?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as we looked at the game and we knew kind of what the weather forecast would be, we thought that we would have the ability to run the football a little bit more effectively. They did a really nice job of shutting down Mr. McAllen, our tailback there. And, I think in a game like that, it is critically important to put points on the board in the first half. Us coming out after halftime with a 10-0 lead, the pressure is not on us to hit big plays. And not necessarily, you want to score points, but you don't have to force the issue. And what it does is it puts pressure on the other team to, move the chains, extend drives and things like that. And when it rains, the pass game, it does go down a little bit. So it's important for both teams not only to run the football effectively, but also to be able to protect the football. And you take a look at the second half there, it was definitely a lot of back and forth, a lot of punts. And I think that, for us defensively, we knew that we had stopped them running the football. And like I said, it came down to them trying to throw the football. So, when you're up in those games, it makes things a little bit easier for you, because offensively, not that we're conservative, but we don't have to force the issue. We don't have to, throw 5-step, every single opportunity we get. We can get to 2nd and 7. We can get to 3rd and 3. We can try to keep moving the chains. And if not, we know the defense is going to step up and, and continue to defend well for us. But in a game like that, it's critically important to be the first one to put points on the board, because then the pressure goes on to the other sideline.
Coach, what does 2018 look like? Not to push it too far past the Thanksgiving holiday and everything else, but I mean, is this going to be continued success down the line with what you have coming back and what you have coming in terms of new players possibly? Give us kind of a brief overview. And also, you were talking about people that were calling you, so maybe lead into the answer here. Did you hear from Zoomer? Coach Zaloom after the win? That's one thing we need to know, definitely. Did Zoomer call you? Oh, wait a minute.
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is that Zoomer, later in life here, he's learned how to text. So I do get text messages from him, whereas, a couple years ago, I'd have to kind of set aside a half hour to 45 minutes just to talk to him on the phone and catch up. But he's down in sunny South Carolina playing music and playing golf and loving life. And he follows us very closely. He's my best friend till the day I die. And he, part of what I'm doing here is for him. There's no doubt about it. And, when we have this trophy behind me and, over the past couple of years, we've had the transit trophy here. Those things are just as much for him as they are for me in this football program, because he lived and breathed engineer football for, the better part of the last, 11 years that he was here. And, but yeah, so it has been great to stay connected to him. And I'm sorry, I forgot what was the first part of the question. I got so excited to talk.
Don't worry. 2018, how's it look?
2018. So, it's very interesting because, there's two types of assessment that you take. There's one from the outside looking in, and then there's the internal assessment that you have. And from the outside looking in, I'm obviously very aware that we want to be able to continue to have success in terms of wins and losses. This group that graduates, they'll graduate with a 26-16 record, I believe, over the past 4 years, 2 playoff appearances, 1 bowl game victory, and really the best 4-year stretch that we've had here in a long time. At the same time, each year your team is dramatically different, whether you have the same cast of characters or not on your team. Each year is always going to be a different one. We graduate some guys at certain critical positions where there's going to be younger guys that are vying for those positions. I think generally speaking, next year, I'm going to rely on our defense continuing to be strong. I'm going to rely on our offense to be able to run the football. I think our special teams should not miss a beat, as we've got every piece of that puzzle coming back. We will have a new quarterback next year. Our 1 and our 2 are both graduating this year. We'll have a new starting wide receiver. We'll have a new bookend defensive end for Derek Pacheco. But I think if you add up the sum of all the parts, if I'm doing the right things and recruiting and coaching these guys and retaining these guys, that it is our hope and our expectation to be able to maintain this success and even to grow it, hopefully, to something even better.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you were talking about the new look. I noticed the new look of the uniforms this season, so we have to give a shout out to the equipment department. You guys are looking sharp in those red uniforms and the silver pewter type of helmets. It's good stuff. And speaking of shout outs, as you know, it's kind of a long-standing tradition for us here on In the Huddle to allow our guests to give a shout out, especially now that we're coming into the holiday seasons. Thanksgiving's just around the corner. Any friends, family, or anyone else you want to give a special shout out to before we send you off to either recruit or get ready for that turkey dinner?
Absolutely. Well, I think definitely my family in New York, a big shout out to them. And my mom is down in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My brother's down in Springfield, Virginia. I hope to catch up with family soon now that the holidays are upon us. And I think the biggest shout out is to the alumni, who have worked extremely hard to help build a strong foundation to get us to this place. this win on Saturday night, it meant a lot to our current players and coaches, but as an alum of another university and another football program, I know how it is and I know how it feels, and we share this victory with the alumni out there and all those engineers, and Frank and mentioned my man Preston Roberts too. He was one heck of a football player, and I miss those guys dearly. But to all of our alumni out there, this trophy behind me, this is for you guys.
Coach, we got to give a shout out to Rusty Egan. We miss him as one of the SIDs that we've worked with over the years, but since we are still in the East region, we get to knock on his door every so often, or ring him up on the text messages and say, "Hey Rusty, what's going on? Can we have coach? Can we have a player?" Didn't get the WPI players that we wanted to this season necessarily, but Rusty's always been very special to us, so send our best to him, please.
He's the best backup kicker in the East.
And always to you guys too. Thank you guys so much for expanding your reach with what you do. It means the world to me. You guys are awesome, and I love staying connected to you. And obviously, I'm an upstate New York guy, so I follow all those Liberty League schools religiously, and I really appreciate all that you guys do. And I know you've got a nice relationship with Matt Noon out in our neck of the woods too. So thank you guys for all the things that you do, and I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday too.
Same to you, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.